There is a beautiful reading. I know it's in our Shiva book that we use, and I'm sure it's in our Siddur. We'll look when we get to the Aleinu. There's a beautiful reading that says, if you treat every single person like they are the Messiah, remember Judaism also believes in a Messiah. Ours hasn't come yet. If you treat everybody like the Messiah, then the world will be a better place. If the Messiah happens to be sitting in this room tonight, how would we know? Or would we know? Somebody said, I don't think we'd know.
I don't think we would know.
We wouldn't know, because the Messiah, even though the Messiah is the chosen of God, the Messiah is the epitome of humility, and therefore would never ever say, I am the Messiah. In fact, some of you are familiar with the Rebbe, who lived in Brooklyn, the head of the Chabad Lubavitch community, who passed away, and they believed he was the Messiah. You can look online, and they will say he never said flat out he was the Messiah. He gave hints and clues, but the true Messiah would never say, I am the Messiah, because he or she is humble. Would never dare say, I'm the Messiah, because as soon as you were to say that, that means you are up here and everybody else is down here. You are the best and everybody else is below you. In this week's Torah portion, Moses is called upon by God to become the leader of the Jewish people. And if you've never read it, it's a fascinating exchange, because if you never read it, you probably think of Moses as an incredibly powerful guy. But God says, Moses, you need to be the leader. You need to go before Pharaoh. You need to speak to the people and take ownership of this situation and help me solve it. And what does Moses say? Who am I to be able to do this? I'm nothing. I'm just a little guy here. I don't have the skills, the ability to do this. Moses would become probably the greatest Jewish leader ever. But in that comment, in that line, and we see it throughout his life, we see how humble he was, because he didn't see himself, even after he was chosen by God, as better than anybody else. In 1992, when I was graduating from college, and I had my master's, my undergraduate degree in Judaism and theater, and I was really leaning towards the theater route. When my advisor at college said to me, why don't you consider being a rabbi? And my answer to her was, I wasn't raised with much Judaism. I can't do this. I don't know how to do it. I promised myself when I eventually took the plunge and did it, that I would never forget that moment of feeling that I wasn't capable of being a rabbi, because it's important, that sense of humility. I think the best moments in my rabbinate have been moments when I haven't forgotten that. The moments I would like to redo are the moments when I forgot that. And we all have had those moments. Today, we don't see much humility, especially from the people that we consider role models. We also live in a world where humility isn't necessarily something that we try to push on our kids. A lot of our kids are going through the college admissions process right now. And I've been writing it's an honor to write lots and lots of letters of recommendation. But if you have been through it, or are about to go through it, or are in it right now, there's nothing humble about the college admissions process. You are supposed to put yourself out there and say that you are 100% the best person that should be accepted into this university, and everybody else, don't look at them, look at me. Put that aside for a second, and then look at some of the people who we've lived through over the past year or so. Bernie Madoff. Not a humble bone in the man's body. In our own neighborhood, he hasn't been convicted yet, it's just accused, Scott Rothstein. No humility. Look at the politicians today. We had people having affairs left and right. Or people in our own government cheating and getting kicked out of office. They get to a point, Jim, you're better at this than I am as a therapist, but some of these people get so enmeshed in their own power and their own ability to have people looking up to them and answering to them, and that they forget that they're not necessarily the best at what they are. They could easily be replaced, but they become very narcissistic because of the world in which they live. And of course, look at the celebrities. Most recently, our dear friend Tiger Woods, who was the golden boy of the sports world. But I think when you're put on a pedestal so often, well, it can be easy to fall off, but it's easy to think, I'm so great, I'm above the rules. You don't have the who am I moment that Moses had. You don't have that messianic concept that I'm not better than anybody else. You start to believe what everybody says about you. You are better than everybody else. And the publicity and the fame, it erases that sense of humility. In the traditional world, if you ask somebody who is really a traditional Jew, embraces traditional Judaism, how are you? What's their answer? Good, Baruch Hashem. Good, thanks God. They understand in that little blessing that some of us, we make fun of it in our more liberal world, but there's something very powerful about answering how you are with an adjective and then saying, thank God. Because it's a reminder that you are not all powerful, that you are not on the highest pedestal, that whether it's God or from your own poor choices and stupidity, tomorrow the answer might be really bad. What people are saying when they say Baruch Hashem, thank God, is they're saying, I'm good. What a blessing it is. How lucky I am to be good, happy, healthy. I appreciate it. Humility seems to disappear when we fail to appreciate just how fortunate, how blessed we are. And we start to take our blessings for granted. And we just assume that life is going to stay the way it is. And we are pretty darn impressed with ourselves. So, whether you are an attorney who says, I am the best attorney there is. There is no one better than I am. Or a rabbi who says, I am the best rabbi